There are different classical theories of economic development. And most of these theories, they are explaining this very important fact that there are underdeveloped countries and there are developed countries. These theories are explaining that how underdeveloped countries are going to move towards developed countries, how that transition is going to happen from their underdevelopment towards development. And in that process, how these underdeveloped countries can have sustained growth and development, not just one spike, but a sustained growth over a long period of time. And in this, we're going to do different kinds of models: linear stages of growth model, theories and patterns of structural change model, international dependence revolution, neoclassical free market counter revolution. So if you look at the first one, this linear stages of growth model, that this approach is assuming that development is a series of development. I mean, there are the series of stages of development, which every country is going to go through. And this is going to include models such as Rostow's stages of growth, Rostow's stages of growth, and Harrod-Dommer model. This is going to include those models. Right. And these successive stages of growth, they are primarily driven by capital accumulation. And how is that affecting growth? So this is what we're going to do in Rostow's stages of growth and Harrod-Dommer model. In theories and patterns of structural change, you have the models such as Lewis model, Lewis model of surplus labor. I'll be writing about all of these models also. So structural change theories, they're going to focus on that how labor and resources, they're going to be shifted from the traditional agricultural sector to the modern industrial sector. This is what the second type of theories are going to talk about, right? And then you have international dependence revolution. So here you have Prebisch-Singer thesis. Prebisch-Singer thesis. Thesis, right? And models such as Frank's dependency theory. Frank's dependency theory. So these models are going to argue that there are few countries which are underdeveloped. And these are underdeveloped. The reason of their underdevelopment is because there are other countries who have exploited these countries, right? Because of the exploitative nature of the global relationships between the developed and the underdeveloped countries, right? And of course, there are internal power imbalances also within these underdeveloped countries. So that is what the international dependence revolution is going to talk about. And then you have neoclassical free market counter revolution. So you have market friendly approach models given by World Bank. Washington consensus. Washington consensus. Consensus. I'm so sorry. So this model is going to argue that there are free markets, there is privatization, there is limited government. So if you allow markets to be free, if you allow more privatization, if there is minimal government intervention, there is going to be development. This is what the fourth kind of model is telling. So all of these models are telling how development can take place in underdeveloped countries, or they're also telling you the reasons of underdevelopment, right? Now, just let's look at briefly each of these models. Right? So in the linear stages of growth model, the main idea is that every country will be passing through the successive stages of development. So there are different stages of development, and all nations should pass through the successive stages of development. So every nation was agricultural initially, then industry will come, then services will come. So this is what they have assumed, right? That every nation is going to pass through the successive stages of development. One thing is that. The main emphasis was on mobilizing savings, because with the mobilization of savings, you can use those savings for capital formation, for investment. And they said this, that, I mean, development is nothing but just to have a right mixture of, you should have proper savings with you. You should be able to mobilize these savings into investment. And also initially, if you need foreign aid, there is nothing wrong in that, right? So just get a right mixture of everything, a right mixture of savings, investment, and aid. And if you have that, your country is there to develop. I mean, it will be able to develop. That is the point, right? But the main idea is that, isn't it assuming that there is only one type of development? There is only one size fits all kind of plan, that is where every country has to follow these steps only. There are countries, and all countries, they will have different socio-economic political problems. How can you ever assume that there is only one path of development? One criticism is that. The another criticism is that there is a mindset which is capital fundamentalism. So which says this, that physical capital formation is the main thing through which development can occur. But that's not true. You also need other kinds of capital formation, not just physical capital formation. You may also need human capital formation. Right? So that has not been talked about in this kind of. So in these models, the main thing is that the development is the successive stage. There are the different stages. Every country will pass through that stage and will be able to develop. We'll call it self-develop. We'll call it self-develop, right? That's an idea. Then came structural change models. So structural change models are that there is the internal transformation of the economy which has to happen from agricultural sectors to industrial and then to the services sector. So there is a sectoral compositional change which has to occur for development to occur. That is the main idea. And they said this, that there is an importance which is given in these models to diversification, to modernization. Because unless one sector is modernized enough, why will people move from the subsistence sector to the modern sector, right? That modern sector should also be giving them better wages, so that there is incentive enough for them to move from the subsistence sector to the modern sector, from the rural sector to the urban sector. So these models have given this line of thought, that how labor is going to move from one part to the another, one part of the economy to the other. And this is going to drive development. And how this again is going to help the agricultural sector also, the subsistence sector also, which most of these models have assumed. And these models have focused on that what kind of policies could be there which can help in having a long-term growth, sustained growth. So one good thing about these models is that they have gone beyond what linear stages of growth model were doing. Because linear stages of growth model were mainly focusing on capital accumulation. So it has gone beyond that. So it is telling you that structural transformation itself can also be a driver of growth. And it is providing more realistic understanding of the picture, of the entire growth story. Then you have internal dependence model. Now, these models, they are assuming that, say earlier you used to have colonial powers and you have colonies on one hand. So these colonial powers, these imperialist powers, they used to exploit colonies, no? They say that nowadays also, these MNCs, they exploit these these poor countries. So that kind of relation, there is a lot of inequality in the global relation. There is inequality of power. So developed countries, they have a lot of power over underdeveloped countries. These models are going to bring about uh, these points a lot, right? So there is a global and domestic power inequality is there. So there is global inequality in power. There is domestic and inequality in power also. So even in the domestic underdeveloped countries, so you take up any underdeveloped country, they say there are going to be elite and non-elite. So the same thing is happening there also. So elite, they are going to overpower non-elite. Corruption is there. So what these models have told that market mechanism is not that important, but these other reasons are the reasons for the underdevelopment. That is the main criticism. That these models, they have almost downplayed the importance of the market mechanisms. They said this, it is not because of less capital there is underdevelopment. There is underdevelopment because these underdeveloped countries, they don't have equal power as the developed countries. These underdeveloped countries, they have rigidities in them. These underdeveloped countries, they have political constraints, institutional constraints with them. So that the other criticism is that these models say you eradicate poverty, there will be development. You reduce inequality, there will be development. I mean, everyone knows that you have to eradicate poverty, you have to reduce inequality. But these are very generalistic things. So these models, they don't provide a feasible or a viable policy prescriptions. That is the main idea. Then new classical free market counter revolution. So these models, they oppose dependence theory. They said this is not, underdevelopment is not due to external exploitation. Underdevelopment is there because government is controlling too much. Government is interfering a lot in the market mechanism. Let markets function freely. So if markets are going to function freely, if there is privatization, if there is open economy, if there is deregulation, government control is minimal, underdevelopment is not going to be there. These underdeveloped countries will also become developed countries. This is very simplistic view, but that's what they said this, right? So these are the four kinds of models or classical models, and we're going to do each one of them also in detail. The kind of the models which are there in each of these types of models. So I hope it was useful to you. Thank you.